Hey, I'm here. How are you?
Thanks,
Good,
Steph.
welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, all right.
Um,
We got everyone on.
Yep,
So,
let me just press the go live on YouTube. Because then when people listen back to it, it'll be good. So I reckon. And I'm all good to go.
All right. 2 seconds of dead space and we're in. Hello and welcome everyone to the AFL Fantasy Fanatics round review. We are recording live on Twitter and YouTube on Sunday, the 9th of July, after the completion of round 17 of the AFL Fantasy season. I am your host and AFL Fantasy Fanatic, Tim Guest, and you can find me on Twitter at TimGuestAU. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, currently in Perth and legend of a bloke. You can find him on Twitter at BalesDT. Bales, mate, how are you? Mate, it was a pretty even round for most coaches last week, but things seem to get shaken up a bit this round. So how did you fare, mate?
Yeah, pretty good. Trades worked out well, had a good week, and yeah, best week for the season. So it's now, I think, 2 weeks in a row. 2 of the last 3 weeks have been pretty good for me. So a 24.67. So very, very happy with that high score for the season. Put me at a round rank of 16.49. So finally happy to get a top 2,000 rank for the week. And that puts me up at currently, I don't know if there's going to be any updates, but at 5,472. So that puts me up about 1,137-ish spots from last week, which is great. So close to that top 5K, which was the goal pre-week, and probably a little bit sort of hopeful, but got pretty close to that, which was nice. In terms of like your plus threes and negative threes, I will leave the +4 this guy because I think DC could go this guy. So I would give it to him, but I'll go Cogs. I brought Cogs in this week. If I could have afforded McRae or Petrarca, I would have gone one of those two. So really, it was a blessing that I couldn't afford those and got Cogs with a season high 136. That was very, very nice to get. And then negative three, probably got to go to Tom Green, 69 points. We've been sort of talking for the last few weeks that he hasn't gone over. He only had that one score, 115, and that's the only score since the 170 that he got in round 8. So it's been some low hundreds, a few sub hundreds, and they haven't been like 90s. They've been 80s or below, which is a bit disappointing. Could be a bit of a topic that we'll talk about later on with Tom Green, but he gets my negative 3. So that was how we went, Tim. And I got to win the Content Grays Cup, which is great.
Come on. Although you were up against Zay.
It's all right, mate.
How much did you win by?
I think I got the job done by, let's have a look. Sorry, Zay, I got it done by nearly 500 points. So, yeah, and a much-needed win, even though I can't make finals or anything, which is unfortunate. But there you go.
Good job, mate. Well, good week. Good luck. Congrats on the win, mate. And let's introduce our guest, hey? So, firstly, he's been on a couple of times now. You all know him also from HatChat AFL. DC, hat winner, mate. Welcome. How'd your team go this week?
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me on again. Team went pretty well. So I think possibly my best round for the year. So it was a good week to get me on. Ended up with a 2,537, which jumped me up to 5,345. So I think I might have just moved ahead of Bales and also ahead of Jake now as well. So I'm no longer the worst coach on HatChat. So that's exciting. And then round rank of 152. So it was a fun week.
Monster week, mate. Monster week. +3, -3, mate?
Yeah, could throw the +3 to a few players. I'll give it to Jack Steele. I'm assuming that's who Bales was referring to. It was a really nice bounce back game from him, but all of the Saints boys I had in that game went really well. Wanganeen Miller with a 130 was a really nice pod in the back line as well. And then -3, Tom Green was disappointing, but I actually had Matt Johnson on field as well, so it could have had an even better round if I'd managed to avoid that. But 41 from him and getting subbed out was not ideal in the last game.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, that would have hurt. That would have hurt. Who came on as the sub?
Debutant Carl Warner.
That's right, Warner. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, turning our attention to our next guest, I was just saying to Bales before, I think this is actually the first time there's ever been a female AFL fantasy coach as a guest on a pod. That's the AFLM pod, of course, but also the other reason why it's worthwhile getting Cara on as well is not only is she currently 11th, but she's also the kind of founder of the varsity nights that everyone kind of knows so much about because we talk about on Fridays. So, mate, well, good on you for starting the nights and also just good on you for being 11th.
Honestly, it's ridiculous. I've been holding this 11th for 3 weeks straight.
And you just can't move.
I can't move. I think I'm doing all right, and then I get fucked over, so she'll be right.
So tell us about how you went for the week.
So my round 17 score was 24.75, which I thought was pretty tidy. I don't know what my round rank is because I got no idea how to look at that. And then in regards to my +3, I'm actually giving it to Noah Anderson because I've held him for quite some time and he just keeps doing it at a time when I need to actually get rid of other people. And then -3, Darsol Cameron. I can't stand him. I brought him in on that last bye round, so I binned McRae to get him in for the points that round. I had, I think, one good week and he's just burned me ever since, so he's got to go in the bin.
And he's on track for 100. What was he, about 50 odd or something like that at half time?
Yeah,
and
57.
Copped a knock or something. Copped a knock in the third quarter and just couldn't score from there on.
Yeah, I thought he was going to have it and then done.
Yeah. All right, well, good on you for still hanging in there and staying 11th. And, it's going to be interesting to watch how you go from here on in. But, yeah, I'll quickly run through my team before we get stuck into the games, etc. So I scored a 25-11. So another pretty big score, but, just a little bit behind DC there. That's moved me up from what was, I think, 969 to 729. So moved me up about 150 spots kind of thing. So pretty happy with that as a week. Had a win in the Content Creators Cup, which was good. I'm going to give my +3 to Gavin Wanganeen Malera. Obviously, I screwed that name up a couple of weeks ago, but it's worked out pretty. My boys worked out pretty well. Especially junking up late in the end of the game there for a 1:30. So that really made a difference for me on my side. And then I'll give my -3. I mean, I would have quite easily given it to Tom Green or Darcy Cameron as the other coaches have already given it to. But that saved, I guess, Harry Himmelberg for me with a 75. I didn't see this game. I heard he got a couple of clangers and had some free kicks or something along those lines. So I guess it could have been a much higher score than that. But look, he's still making cash. But yeah, 75 hurts on the field. So yeah, he'll need to go soon.
I thought it was going to be bloody Windhager for you, the -3, but he ended up saving his score, which we'll talk about him later. But he did quite well for you, Tim.
And that, look, just on that as well. I don't know. Maybe coaches have been doing this heaps before me, but this week I managed to loop essentially on field through 1, 2, 3. 4 different players. So I started with a Sheldrick, he didn't fire. Then I went to a Dev Robinson, he didn't land, and then a Campbell Chess. I wasn't happy with the 66, and then I finished with a Marcus Windhager on field for 74. So I'll take it in terms of the modern fantasy looping game. But geez, yeah, who would have thought that we would have been doing that in this game? But anyway. All right, well, before we get stuck into the games, we're just going to turn quickly our attention to the AFL Fantasy Content Creators Cup, proudly brought to you by Infinite Wealth, helping you reach your financial goals faster, where winning coaches will get $5,000 for their favourite charity. A reminder, there's something special for every coach available too, so head across to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to claim your free 5-module online learning program at the Fast Track to Freedom. And I will be doing a webinar in the next couple of weeks, so if you want to find out how to pay your mortgage off up to 3 times faster, or how to save thousands in tax every year, or how to build your wealth and replace your income, get along to the website and register, and I'll let you know about those details in the next couple of weeks. So infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy. So, yeah, really good week to have DC on because he was the highest scoring coach for the round with a 25-37. So great job to him. But then I'm going to read out the top 8. But there was a couple of big movers. In fact, one of the big movers this week was Destroy had a pretty big round, but Louis has really snuck into the top 8 in terms of overall ranking. But to start us off, Destroy is 8th at 3,164. So, yeah, all our top 8 now, just outside the top 3,000. Nathan, the Obermullet's 3,033. There you go, DC. He'll be crowing about that. Miller Time is 2,666. Then junk time, so a couple of boys in the break-even pod there at 2, 4, 6, 8. Then we've got me at, hang on, have I screwed this up? No, I don't think I have. No, then I've got me at 7:29. And then we've got Sanch at 6:45, so not too far ahead of me. And then Mitch still out in front at 3:50. Although I think he did slide just a little bit backwards. Took a couple of pod shots, I guess, this week in terms of captain choices and things like that, and didn't quite work out for him. But still sitting up there at 350, so doing well there. All right, well, let's turn our attention now to the games. So kicking us off on, it was Thursday night. Gee, seems so long ago now. Richmond defeating Sydney by 13 points at the MCG. Debutant Bauer did his hamstring in the first couple of minutes there and was subbed off for Jack Ross. And then Lloyd was concussed in the second quarter. And, of course, just a reminder that Nank has been sent straight to the tribunal for that one. So he'll, no doubt be out for 3 weeks or so. But over to you, Bales. All right. I don't have Bales, and I think he's been sending me.
No, for some reason my bloody audio is playing. I've got no idea why it is. But yeah, let's get into the players. Errol Goulden, 126. If you had the VC on him on the Thursday night, you'd be very, very happy starting the round off with that, especially when it looked early like it was going to be a bit of a lower scoring week, but we had plenty of big scores coming in the later games. Nank 113, but as you mentioned, Tim, MRO, so he'll be going to the tribunal there, so he'll be seeing a 3+ week suspension. So if you've got him as a pod, you've obviously got to move him on, but he has been very, very good. And if you don't have Marshall or English, they're one of the two that you're probably going to go to. Taranto 97, so back-to-back scores under 100, so not a concern for any of us. We're fine with him moving forward. But Callum Mills, the first one I want to speak about. So DC 92, he bumped his game time up again, up to 86%, I believe it was, and looked pretty good, except he went back in the third quarter, I believe it was, when Jake Lloyd was sort of off injured. Is he still a good option that coaches can consider moving forward as a sort of get the last rookie off the field?
Yeah, I think exactly for that scenario, if you've got Johnson or Sheldrick or someone at your M8, then it's a pretty easy move now to get them up to Mills. And I think you're just going to get more consistency from him. I know he's had a 3 this year, but he's pretty unlikely to drop you a real stinker of a score like we saw from guys like Sheldrick and Johnson this week. So I wouldn't get too carried away with expectations. I don't think he's going to go back to being that 110 player he's been for the last few years for the rest of the year. But I think a 95 average probably from here out is fair.
So, DC, I'm actually pretty curious about this, right? Because for many players, he could be like looking at that M8. I mean, are we concerned that, he doesn't have the ceiling to kind of take up one of those midfield spots?
Yeah, to a point. It's just he's so cheap. So I think if you are looking to get that last rookie off field, it's quite easy to do that. And we know he has got a ceiling at his best. He was, the most scores over 130 or something last year out of anyone. So if he has one of those games and you've brought him in for 650K or whatever he is, then you're probably going to have a pretty good week and certainly get a jump on everyone else that doesn't have him. So I'd be keeping my fingers crossed that he can drop a big one or a couple on the way home.
Yeah, okay, good point.
So actually, what I might say, DC was finished him with that there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just having issues, unfortunately, guys, with the Twitter space. I just can't hear DC, which is weird. I don't know. Do we want to? I don't know if DC wanted to hop off and jump back on and see if that fixed it. So I can hear what he's saying, but I can't. I can hear Cara and Tim, just not DC, unfortunately. I know you boys can.
DC can hop off and hop back on. Let's just move forward.
Sweet. Yeah, sweet. So we got, I'll edit this bit of the podcast anyway. Then, Sheldrick 46. Obviously, Tim, you were saying that you were looping him on. Any sort of little concerns with him? Obviously, he's a rookie at the end of the day. So you're looking at maybe can coaches look at moving him on potentially this week?
Oh, I think 100% coaches will be looking at moving him on this week. I mean, this is exactly why we say get your rookies off the field. There would have been a lot of coaches, I think, that still would have just been having to play him on field, and then coaches that would have also been having to loop him And, I mean, not only just the natural concerns of having a rookie and things like this happening, but, he also did his ankle there and I think, was it just before halftime or just after halftime or something along those lines, and didn't seem to be moving too well after that. So who knows whether he's going to be rested or, whether that's going to hamper him moving forward. So, I think a lot of coaches will be looking to, upgrade him to as a Mills is a good example. A Jack Steele we've already talked about in the +3s. I'm sure there's other options out there as well.
Is because if he's on your bench, for example, for some coaches, because he's got that Thursday night game again next week, is it if you can do a downgrade and an upgrade and get who you want, is almost could be good to keep him for one more week on your bench to be able to loop him again on Thursday just in case he popped out another big score?
Yeah, so this is, I mean, one of the things I loved about last week was, I didn't really love it, but I guess one of the things that makes it interesting when something like Dunkley goes out is, there's so many different options that coaches can take. And I think, this will be an example this week as well. So there'll be coaches who will try and hold a Sheldrick and maybe try and get one of their other rookies up to one of these kind of cheaper primos like a Mills, and hope that he has a big score. But, one of the things I think there's also a really good argument for is not looping him and trying, because he's worth so much now. I mean, I think he's going to be worth $515,000 even after that score. And, the ability to probably, put cash. I mean, I know I stuck a lot of cash in the bank so that I could go to Sicily next week. So, and I'm going to need to use him to do that. So some coaches will go, mid-range, and some coaches will go to the top, and we'll see how that works out for everyone.
Sweet. And then the other two here was obviously Banks got a 39. So looked okay, obviously not a huge score, but he'll be a pretty popular downgrade, taking some kick-ins there for Richmond. Lloyd injured, so I know that hurt Matty Mottram there at the top as well with only 38, but he still scored pretty well, Matty Mottram. So you can see with that 30, and a few other coaches had him. I know Jake as well was, unfortunately jumped on him as well. And then Jacob Bauer as well, feel sorry for him. Only a couple of minutes into his debut and did a hamstring, so he could be out, and he only got the 6. So, Tim, we'll move on to the Friday night game, which was at Varsity, which I got to enjoy watching with you guys.
Yeah, pretty good game of footy as well. So Western Bulldogs were defeated Collingwood by 12 points at Marble. Subs there. So James O'Donnell, I don't know if anyone's still got him on the bench there, was subbed out in the fourth quarter. A couple of injuries. I don't know if Gardner makes any difference to kind of some of those players down back, or Hoskin-Elliott makes any difference. Both of those players were injured, so just be mindful of that.
Yeah. So Caleb Daniel, Cara, so he 116 responded after that 74 that he got last week. Is he a pod that you may look at in the back half of the year? I know that the Dogs have got a pretty nice run sort of on the run home. Is he someone you may look at?
He was on my radar a few weeks ago, actually, coming off the buys. And for some reason, I can't remember, but I didn't go to him. And I think he had a few shit scores. But then, this last one is interesting, especially after Bevo said he's going to run through the midfield a bit more. It is tempting because I'm probably not going to be able to go to Sick Dog next week. And so I wonder what I'll be doing the week after.
Yeah, he's good pod, and especially with that nice run, definitely one that coach are going to look at. Bont got 114, so he performed very strongly as well. Just continues to get those 110 plus scores for us week in, week out. Nick Dacos, Tim, who you had as VC, looked really good, but didn't quite get enough, and you end up taking him on as VC.
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches did the same thing this week as well. Probably weren't happy with the kind of those one team kind of scores from Bont and Dacos. I mean, my kind of reasoning was that Dawson's been averages more than that, so I thought I'd take that on. But worked out well. But it wasn't the highest scoring round, so I think there would have been a lot of coaches that did well just by taking those scores.
Yeah. Well, DC, where do you sit on the Dacos and Bont 112, 114? Would you have? I don't know exactly. I don't know if you VC Taranto or not, but if you had a 110 or more, would you be taking a score like that, or are we at the point in the year where a lot of coaches with their full primo sides, you're looking at getting 120s or more from your VC?
Yeah, I think maybe we're at the time of the year where it's time to take that on, but it is quite dependent, I think, on where you're sitting. So in my situation where I'm nowhere, you may as well have a punt, I think, probably now if you're maybe in Cara's situation and right up there challenging, then it's a bit of a different conversation, I think. Because if you roll into a C and they get injured early or something like that, then it looks terrible if you've had a 115 or something sitting there with a VC on it. So it's a tough one, and I think it's this time of the year where the pressure of the decision starts to become really important because everyone's teams are scoring so highly.
Yeah, agreed. And it's good I can hit DC now, which is great. So we've got that sorted, so we'll push on. Then we had Tim English, who was my bloody VC. That was awful watching him 94 with that poor opening quarter, but it turned out to be fine because my captain went pretty well anyway. So I was pretty happy in the end. Jack McRae, Cara, so you jumped on him. Actually, no, you jumped off him a couple of weeks ago, I think you said to me on Friday. So what did you make of his game? He didn't have any CBAs, still put up a solid enough score. Is he someone that you're going to maybe look at bringing him back in, or are you happy to be off of him at this stage?
Nah, early on I thought I got burned because he was my trade out in that last bye round to Cameron for the points. And and then of course, even without the CBAs, he was scoring around all right. So for a F6, he looked mint. But I think I've missed him. I'm targeting Cogs. So he's not in my areas at the moment.
Yep. So you don't see him being in your side probably for SE, maybe look at other guys?
Oh, let's be honest. I've got a few that need to go in the bin. It's just there's a bit of a line and I can only get rid of one at a time.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, and as you said, Cogs is – we'll talk about Cogs later. And
I might actually –
probably a target.
Let me jump in here, Bales, as well. I might actually ask DC, just because I know we were all at Varsity on Friday night and maybe we weren't necessarily watching the game as closely as we normally would, because I'm really curious about the role that McRae's been playing, and I know that a lot of coaches would have brought him in last week. Did he maintain that kind of midfield role, or did he, did Bevo? Is that why he only scored 93? Kind of Bevo, he got Bevoed, or what happened there? DC, did you see it?
I saw a bit of the game, but probably not enough to have a really decent comment. I was watching the cricket, unfortunately, on that one. But I think it's probably pretty similar to what he's been doing most of the year from the bits and pieces I did see, where he's still pushing up to contest a lot. But yeah, if the game doesn't suit, then I think he can sort of get missed a bit in the points. So it's not someone I'd be chasing if I didn't have him. Put it that way.
That's what I'm thinking. Did anyone else see or?
Yeah, well, for me, just looking at, he didn't have any CBAs. He was clearly playing that high half forward role, getting up the ground. I'm still looking at him in round 19. They've got that really nice run for 3 weeks, so he's a guy that I may look at. But with Cogs doing so well, maybe I don't have to look at him because he probably will be there for SCU. And a lot of coaches that don't have McRae or Cornelio are probably going to go Cornelio this week after seeing him on the weekend. A couple of midfield pods in Tom Mitchell, 88, and Trelaw, 75. Didn't quite do it for owners, so I'm sure that there's bigger issues that coaches have got than moving guys like that on. But, hey, if they're in a good position, then you can. If you want to jump off, then you can, because they're probably not going to be top 8. Darcy Cameron, 77. Now, Tim, I'll go to you for this one because I know you were pretty disappointed with Darcy Cameron on Friday because he was sort of in your plans to maybe move on and whatever. But I don't know if you can get off him this week, but is he an option for coaches to be trading out now, especially with that Freo matchup coming up this week?
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, just for me personally, a little bit like what Cara was saying, there's a couple of players that have got to go for me, but there's a line. And he's not quite at the front of it. So I think I'll have to hold him another week. But yeah, I mean, look, definitely coaches could be looking to move off him, but I wouldn't be. I don't know that I would be moving off him if you've got. I mean, not if you've got a rookie on field.
Agreed. Yeah.
I'm even. It might be a. If you've got a Himmelberg and a Darcy Cameron, it could be a 50-50 toss-up between who to go out of those two. But these are the kinds of things you got to think about. Team dependent, and admittedly, this kind of time of year, we start looking at matchups, and I must admit, I haven't paid too much attention to this week's matchup just yet. So, definitely on the chopping block.
Yeah, and I'm looking at getting rid of like a Lockie Ash before Darcy Cameron. But hey, if you don't have some of these guys, you can definitely be traded. And Bailey Smith as well, this is the last one there. Only 43. He's just really fallen off. Not partly his fault, it's partly with Bevo playing him in a weird role. playing deep forward, especially in that first half. But could be a bargain next year if everything goes to plan. But one to cross off the list for this year, Tim. So we'll move on to the Saturday games.
Yeah, just one other there as well. I know there was a couple of coaches looking at bringing in Treloar as well. He only scored 75, so they would have been disappointed with that too. But yes, moving on. Brisbane defeated West Coast by 81 points at the Gabba. 81 points, we'll probably take that as a win. Kyle Lohman, rookie, was subbed. He subbed in, replaced Dane Zorko in the fourth quarter. Probably all to note. I mean, McGovern was subbed off at three-quarter time as well, but I don't know if that's too relevant for players, but for many coaches, sorry, I should say. But yeah, over to you, Bales.
Yep. So, the top scoring player, I know Cara would be very happy with Lachie Neale, who you took as VC card there with a 127. What do you make of him for the rest of the year? Do you see him being a top 8 or close enough, or do you see just a good matchup here and he could be a luxury trade down the line? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I reckon a couple of weeks ago I thought he was on my list of one of the guys that will be my luxury trade up to someone. But after he did that and was my VC, which I took, I'm pretty happy. And I must admit he's not on my bottom 3 thoughts of bidding at the minute.
Do you think that coaches can still look at targeting him, or do you think it's sort of been a bit the fact that he's had good matchups and you still maybe look at maybe other targets?
Yeah, good question. He's priced, his break-even was still a bit low. He's probably priced at where he's at. And I think obviously the benefit with Dunkley out, so you could probably roll with him next week if Dunkley still misses. But yeah, look, to be honest, I think there's a few hovering around that price that you could jump on. Just depends on the matchup.
Yeah, I think I agree as well. Jaden Hunt as well, for anyone out there, got a 126. So draft probably would be owners would be very happy with that. Hugh McCluggage got a 118. Tim, I know you were looking at him, so he put up a good score, but I think it was probably more down the matchup. And if Dunkley comes back, he's probably not going to. I don't know if he'll keep up the scoring. But DC, I know you were looking at McCluggage was a guy you had a bit of an eye on. Is he still an option, or do you think that it was partly the matchup, Dunkley out, and you think that maybe his scoring will go back a bit when Dunkley returns?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be affected when Dunks returns. He has quietly been better probably in the last 5 or 6 weeks than he was to start the season. And I think similar to a lot of the Brisbane mids, really, like Neale has really hit his straps last few weeks, and Dunks obviously since that big 170 he put up has been pretty damn consistent after a slow start. So I think, the Brisbane mids seem to be finding a bit more of the ball than what they were doing. And maybe it's a slight style of play shift. I don't really know, but he's just a bit awkwardly priced now. I think if you didn't do it last week, I wouldn't be chasing the human luggage.
Yeah, I think I agree. But and I'll ask you about another HatChat favourite. I know Jake's boy, Liam Duggan. So with West Coast sort of chipping around the bat now, another 116. If you remove that game where his first game back from injury, and I think he's in the hospital as well with that break, and then he had a migraine against Hawthorn. He's gone over 100 in every other game since. Is he a sneaky pod that coaches can be looking at?
Yeah, I think he is. Unfortunately, he's pretty damn expensive now, but he would be putting up close to top 6 defender numbers, I would suggest. He also had a poor game the week before last, which was the Saints. But, outside of that, I think he's been very good.
Yeah, I've been looking at him for a couple of weeks, and, I think I'll still be going consistently over him, but he's definitely a good pod. So, Jake, if you want to jump back on Duggan, I think he's a good option. Will Ashcroft, 113. So, Cara, he obviously keeps just putting up these good scores, but because that West Coast matchup's out the way, do you think it's still a good option for coaches to jump off of him, even though he scored the 113 last week?
Yeah, it's interesting. I got rid of him a couple of weeks ago and then got burned because I think he had one bad one, but then he's kind of nailed it. I'm not sure. Obviously, I know he does all right at the Gabba. And I'm just trying to have a look at their matchup. But to be honest, if he's your last rookie and you can loop, you'd probably be happy to still have a look at him, especially if Dunks is out.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's actually a good call, actually. Yeah, I didn't actually think about looping in, but yeah, it could be a good option for coaches to look at. Jared Lyons got a 110C, sort of returned out of nowhere. So good for draft coaches there. Wilmot 76, Chesser 66, Hewitt 62, and Devrob 55, all rookies that, again, most people had them on their bench, but they can also be downgraded this week if that gets you the upgrade. So Tim, we'll move on to the Giants and Hawks game.
Yeah, sure. So GWS defeated Hawthorn by 13 points at Giants Stadium. So Nick Haynes came on as a sub, but then has also been referred to the MRO has offered him one match for rough conduct on Josh Ward. So I'm not sure how that impacts Himmelberg there. But yeah, and also Lockie Keith. He came on the sub for Lockie Keith, who did his hammy. Apart from that, also Jarman Impey was subbed off, although I don't know if there was an injury. There's nothing listed, so I don't know why that happened.
Yeah. So shout out to, unfortunately, Jet there that had bloody Jarman Impey after being a late out last week. So thanks to Hawthorn for that one there. Stephen Cornelio, so I'll talk about him. So he was obviously awesome with his 136 after me bringing him in this week. And yeah, obviously the Hawthorn matchup was great. He had a huge first quarter and started really well. And he's just got the role. So I'm just having a look at his matchups here. So he has got next week, he's got the Crows. So I think he can go pretty well there. And he's got the Gold Coast Suns and then the Bulldogs. So I think he's still a good option for coaches to look at. That's a little bit cheaper than those guys at the top. So definitely one for coaches to consider bringing in their forward line. Kieran Briggs, DC, your boy, 95. Not a bad score for him there. Are you still advising coaches to maybe, if they can get English or a Marshall in, you'd be going up to him?
Yeah, well, he's no longer my boy because I traded him to Sean Darcy this week. But yeah, it was a nice return to form from him. I still think he's probably going to give up 20 or so points each week, though, to those top two guys, and maybe even Darcy as well. So, yeah, I'd be looking to move him on. I'm assuming most people will have him probably as in their sort of bottom 3 or 4 players now.
Yep. Yeah, agreed there. Will Day, 87. Solid enough score. He had a good first half and sort of a bit quieter in the second half. But, again, probably a lower priority, but similar boat to sort of like your Darcy Camerons. And even Himmelberger got a 75 in this game as well. If they're your worst issue and you can move them on, then it is not a bad option, especially with a Sicily coming back this week. If you can go a Day to Sicily, that is not a bad move. But then again, Day does have some good matchups to come, so you can hold. Himmelberger's mentioned there 75. He could potentially go for a lot of coaches, even if they brought him in this week. Just doesn't quite have that ceiling, and there's too many mouths to feed back there for my liking as well. So coach could look at getting off him. Seamus Mitchell, 56, again, similar to some of these other rookies. If you still had him, you can upgrade him. And then Josh Kelly as well, only 30 points after getting taped off Finn McGuinness and playing pretty much on the wing for the Giants on the weekend. So, yeah, not a great score from him. So, Tim, that's it. Not too many players in that game, but I think we'll move on to this Saturday night game.
Can I ask a question on one of those, though? What was the deal with Tom Green? Because I obviously have him and he fucking stunk, but Jelly was the one getting tagged. So what the hell was happening there? I didn't watch the game.
I don't know. I don't know if one of you boys saw more of this. He had the CBAs, the 19 series. Did you guys see exactly what was going on with him? Was it just a poor game or more to it?
Yeah, pretty much, I think. I think Cogs stole most of his points.
Yeah, I'm pretty dirty that I didn't get Cogs. Righto, thanks.
Yeah, definitely one that could be an interesting topic. Is he a player you might look at trading out, Cara, at all?
He's on my list, but he's behind Dartol just because of I don't know. I feel like he's more highly owned than Darcy Cameron, so I think I've got to hold him for the minute.
Yeah, although I think that we will start to see some movement off Tom Green, though, I think, at the top end.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and Will Day is another one that I want to bin, but he's got North Melbourne this week, so I'm hoping for a rebound.
Yep, beautiful. Tim, we'll move to the Saturday night games.
Yeah, cool. St Kilda defeated by Melbourne by 21 points at Marvel Stadium. So Seb Ross did his hammy. Max King was subbed out after doing his shoulder, and Zane Cordy was concussed. But over to you. Let's talk about the big ruckman first.
Yeah, well, actually, I'll throw this to he's the new St Kilda supporter, DC. He's he had all these players.
When the Saints go marching in.
You had all of Ryan Marshall, Jack Steele, Wayne Miller, and Jack Sinclair, DC. So run us through those 4 players, and we'll probably start off with the biggest, probably one of interest, Jack Steele.
I don't really know what you want me to say, mate. They're all awesome, all must-haves. Everyone should own them. Jack Steele's been the best pick of the year. No, it was a fun game to watch. Quite unexpected. Wanganeen Miller has been quietly pretty awesome, particularly since probably the first month of the season where he started fairly slow. He's going to be one I think that's going to be a great defender option for us for years to come.
Just with Wanganeen Miller, with Sinclair moving more into the midfield, is he still an option for coaches to now jump on with the fact that he's got really that role all to himself at the moment?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know whether I'd be jumping on now because his price is going to bump up a fair bit this week, but he's certainly unique. So he really helped me this week and helped Tim by the sounds of it as well. He actually pushes further up the ground than what I initially thought as well. He pushes up to the wing a lot and he gets involved in their switches of play a lot out there. It just seems to find space really frequently. So I actually also think he's probably the best kick in their team. I think he's an even better kick than Sinclair. So they obviously want the ball in his hands, and he reminds me a fair bit of Lockie Whitfield in some ways. Just really smooth mover. Doesn't ever seem to be sprinting, but seems to get the ball and get space so often. So, yeah, definitely one you could look at if you want to do something a bit different.
Yeah, and then our boy Jack Steele. So he's going to be a big. There's going to be coaches that jump on him, but that's just what obviously with fantasy when a player puts up a huge score and their price so cheaply, like Jack Steele has been, obviously being out of form and with injuries. Have you seen enough to tick off that move for coaches to jump on, or do you still maybe want to see another week? What are your thoughts?
No, I've seen enough. I actually think this has been coming for a few weeks. I wasn't expecting a 140. I was thinking maybe a 120 might be around the corner, but I think his last 2 weeks have actually been pretty good. He kind of had a bit of a nearly week last week against the Eagles. I think he got to the ball a lot, but just didn't get the ball out, or he had tackles that didn't stick and things like that. That could have quite easily been another 100. So, and then he had the 100 the week before. So we could have been looking at 3 tons on the trot from him if a few little things had gone his way. So I think now is probably the time to jump on. He certainly looks to be moving a lot freer and was spreading for marks a bit more this week as well than what I've seen.
Yeah. Cara, is he maybe someone you're looking at as a bit of an underpriced option there?
Yeah, I like him. And he's got North Melbourne and Hawks coming up. So I think that run in the next couple of weeks looks good to jump on if you need someone that's a bit cheaper.
Yeah, great. It's I was trying to get DC to say redemption, but it was a bit of redemption as an owner that we both picked him up in round 8. So it was very nice to see that score. Ron Marshall with a 148 as well performed very nicely for all those coaches that have got him. He's pretty much owned by everyone, but still it's very good to see this player go and get a 148. Jack Sinclair 110 as well, performed very nicely. Christian Petrarca. Now, Tim, I know you want to speak about this. Petrarca. So going forward, and just with
I messed up.
Is that
I messed up.
So did I, Tim.
I messed up. I brought in Petrarca. I shouldn't have brought in
Same.
Petrarca.
You're not thinking about trading him out straight away, surely?
Well, maybe. And look, there might. Well, anyway, let's just hold fire, right? So, So very excited, obviously, with the news of Oliver being out for, however many more weeks he's going to be out for. Obviously Petrarca's been getting a bit more midfield time. He's been scoring really well of late. Thought, great, Petrarca, lowly owned. This is the week to bring him in. And then, of course, he's playing forward. And the thing that I just didn't take into consideration, and I certainly didn't hear anyone mention it either, but Bailey Fritsch being out meant he was going to play more forward. And then, of course, the coach confirmed it after the game as well by saying that we can expect to see him playing more forward. So now I've brought in a mid $900,000 player who's going to be spending more time forward.
I did the same thing, and I honestly didn't pick up on any of that movement with him. I just thought it was the golden ticket, and I fucked it.
And I was crying about him. on Friday. I don't know if there was any coaches out there that brought him in because of what I said. So I hope not. But yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But it's another mistake I've made.
Yeah, definitely something to watch in the next couple of weeks. But Angus Brayshaw is one that coaches can keep an eye on. Look, we're not going to probably go in depth with him because he's been so poor, but 105, just someone to put as a bit of a watch for maybe next week and see how he goes. He did get that midfield role, especially if Petrarca's playing forward. Brad Crouch, 96 again, another one sort of to watch. If Jack Steele's back to form, can Crouch and Steele both go 110? I think they can, but
well,
I think they can, but
I don't know. I think Holmesy would be singing a different tune right now. because he went through the pain of having Crouchy when, Jack Steele was kind of getting more of that role and playing better, and he wasn't scoring very well. So I think that's another player we need to be worried about.
Yeah, I think it's a red flag.
Yeah, red flag, and I think we can hold him the fact that he's got these easy matchups, but definitely something to look at moving forward. And then Windhager as well, we mentioned him before with the 74, which was good for you, Tim. And so we'll move on to the other Sadland.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, just solid, but yeah, like we also noticed he was playing down back a lot as well.
Very odd. Don't know what was going on there.
But. Yeah. All right, next game. Port Adelaide defeated Gold Coast by 33 points at Adelaide Oval. So Trent McKenzie did his ankle and was replaced by Quinn Narkle at quarter time. And then Ben King was also replaced in the third quarter by Jai Farah, but there isn't any update about the injury. So I don't know whether Ben King was injured or what happened there. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. Well, this one I'll pretty much just run straight through because there's not really too much more to discuss with this. But Noah Anderson, 104. Toot came back. He still put up a good score. I don't see him being a top 8 mid, but if owners have got him, they'd be happy enough at the 100. Rosie, 103, was very good. That's now 8 tons in a row for him, which has been fantastic. Rory Atkins, 103. Would have been good if he did that when we all had him, but nonetheless, a good score for him. Toot Miller, 97, played a bit more forward, something to just keep an eye on moving forward, but probably not a guy you'd be looking at targeting just yet. And then Zach Butters got an 86 as well, and I believe he probably copped attention in the first half. But yeah, so Tim, I think for time, we'll move on to the Sunday games.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, probably Took's just a little bit early for us to jump on, isn't he?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I can only assume Bales you're moving on because that was Power's 13th straight win. As a pro supporter.
No comment on that.
Yeah. So let's move on.
Move on to the Sunday games.
Well, before we get into the Sunday games, you probably know it by now. If there's a player you want discussed or if there's a question you want answered, tweet it below the spaces or comment on YouTube and we'll go through them before we finish. Make sure we talk about all the players and make sure you guys get your questions answered. So Geelong defeated North by 62 points at GHMBA Stadium. Just to mention that Tui there became the game's record holder for an Irishman, so congratulations to him. But there was also a late change. Wardlaw was managed and replaced in the side by Charlie Lazaro. And then Griffin Logue did his knee in the first quarter and was replaced by Jack Siebel, who was an out for some. Well, he was an out for your partner, Ranger Mike. Isn't that right, Cara?
Yeah, I have to keep putting the mic on mute because you might hear him sobbing in the background.
And then another thing to note is Josh Simkin was concussed in this game as well.
Yeah, well, I actually missed the fact that Wardlaw was out because I was too busy worrying about Volkanovski getting the job done in the UFC. So good on him for getting that done, which was great. But Mitch Duncan, DC, which he's been referred to you boys on HatChat as Ditch Munkin a fair bit, but he's been quietly good the last few weeks. With those games at GMHBA, any interest or the fact that the injury history there, you're not going near him?
It's in our HatChat policies that at all opportunities I have to talk down Ditch Munkin. So, no, I would not be recommending him.
Yeah, well, I would agree. I don't think he's...
Can you imagine the shade you'd get if you did bring him in and you were part of that podcast?
Yeah, well, if I brought him in and he got injured, then Nathan would never let me forget that. So I'm not really sure I want to put myself through that.
Yeah, I know. I think it's way too risky at this point. For LDU, that I knew that you did own early in the year, DC, he's cheap. Any interest of going back on that train?
Yeah, there is some interest. I think looked way better this week. I'm still of the mind that the LDU we saw in the first couple of rounds of the year is the real LDU because that's what we saw for a lot of the second half of last year as well. I just think his body hasn't quite been right this year, and I think if he gets fully fit and gets a good run at it for the rest of the year, I think he can probably match it with some of the top mids. But there's a few pretty big ifs there. The thing that's making me look at him, though, is their next 3 games. So I can't remember which order it is, but they've got Hawthorn, St Kilda and West Coast for the next 3, which is as good as any run in the comp.
Yeah, great. And I've been looking at him as well as a cheap option if I want to jump off like a Darcy Cameron or something. Yeah, so Hawthorn next week, then it's St Kilda, West Coast. But then after that, it's still Melbourne, Essendon and Richmond Gold Coast. So it's still pretty nice for the rest of the year. So definitely someone to have a look at. Tom Stewart, Tim, we were sort of watching that a little bit in the background today. Still, he was on his sort of mid 60s at 3/4 time, and he just finds a way, doesn't he, to get his scores.
We figured he was going to junk up at the end of that game, and he did.
Yep. Cherry Tim.
Yeah.
Any interest? 110.
Oh, look, I think there's going to be. I'm not interested. I'm not even considering it, but I think there will be interest in the community for sure.
Yeah. I think maybe more next year, but I guess if you're struggling for cash, you don't have the cash to go up to an English or something, you've still got maybe someone that's not quite doing it. Could be some look at. But I think him and Jack Bowes are the two that we on the HatChat spaces in the middle of the week, we spoke about some few players for next year. And, yeah, Bowes and Cherry are definitely two that Coach could have. But Bowes got a 101. He's going to be very cheap as well. Jack Zeeble was a late in, got a 79. So if anyone still has him in their side, you sort of would have been happy. At least he played for you. But I think a lot of coaches would have jumped off him anyway. Cooper Harvey got a 63 on debut. Good to see him kick his first goal as well. Harry Sheasel, Cara, only got a 52 there. I think got a bit of attention from a Tom Atkins at times throughout the game. Is that just if coaches jumped on, are you jumping straight back off, or would you still hold the faith with him?
Oh, I still remember talking to Tim on Friday night about him when I told him I went Keys over Shees, and you were hot on Sheasel, and I'm really glad he was a potato. I'd be devastated if I jumped on that, and I'd be really, that you'd be that self-talk that you've just brought a rookie back in, like, what a fucking idiot. Yeah, honestly, I don't know what to do if you had him, especially with Zeeble. It's like Zeeble came in and next minute he was put in the forward line. Like, it was just shizer.
Yeah, it's a bit of a unfortunate that he put up that score. I think DT Lemon and Minimup both jumped on him, which was
there was a lot of coaches that brought him in.
Yeah, there was a lot of coaches. I like,
especially with that news about Zeeble out as well.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I was dirty because I binned him last week. So yeah, after last week, I thought I'd done the wrongy, and then he's just put up a rookie score, which is devastating.
Yeah, and then Mullen was the other one there. Got a 47, which was, I'm just glad that he played after jumping on him as a red dot last week, which I didn't like doing, but at least he played and put up a little bit, and he'll make a little bit of cash, which is nice. So, Tim, unfortunately, we have to move to my
sure.
The
Probably
Crows.
talk about Cooper Harvey. Just mindful of Cooper Harvey will probably have one of the lowest break evens in the game. So he'll probably come in with DPP. He might come in as one of those rookie downgrades for people.
Yep. Yeah, great. But yeah, unfortunately, we have to move on to the next game. My Crows.
Yeah, it wasn't fun to watch, was it? Essendon defeated Adelaide by 18 points at Marvel. Jordan Ridley did his knee, although looked really bad, and then didn't look so bad, but then still went off and was replaced by Dylan Shield. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about Zach Merritt. I don't have him. I don't like watching him.
150. Played brilliantly. Got no attention
You beauty.
whatsoever.
Yep. Well, we're moving on from him because I don't have him. So, and we know that for a fact that if I don't have these players that go 150, we're not going to talk about him. So, but they're just joking. But Merritt 150 for all those coaches out there, be very, very happy with him. He's been a very good pick, and it's a shame I don't have him. And he's definitely an option for coaches to still consider at an expensive price. Jordan Dawson, one of my boys, as a captain coming through strong for me and Tim. Was very nice to have a good score put up there. Went into defence when the Crows were struggling, but I think I had put up a stat on Twitter before. His last 3 games, he's had at least 8 marks and 8 tackles. So he just an absolute fantasy beast. Darcy Parish 126 could be a bit of a pod, Tim, for coaches to maybe look at jumping on. What are your thoughts on him?
Has got a ceiling too.
Yeah, so
I'm not sure if I saw Fleabaggers has him, and I'm not sure if that was his play this week, but if it was, like, kudos to him. What a great move.
Yeah. Is Cara's he one that you're looking at all?
Oh, bloody hell. I wish. I think I already know what I'm doing next week, but yeah, I like it for the pod. But let's be honest, I'm a Zera owner, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, exactly right. But yeah, definitely one that coach will look at. Darcy Parish, my boy Lairdy. Tim, I was telling you today, I was a bit concerned with his one.
Oh, we were
with his game. I was thinking, damn it.
I think
Dawson
you were
really
concerned. Bloody Mitch was concerned from Ball Boys. He, being ranked so highly, his kind of point of difference this week was putting the C on Lairdy. So he was very, very worried for a lot of that game.
Yeah, mate, I was worried being the lead ambassador of the community, but it was good to see him junk up late and get a lot of those +6s, which was nice. So he'll be fine. 116 was good enough there. Ben Keys had a really good second half. I think he had just trying to work it out here, he had a 65-point second half, which was fantastic. I know, Tim, you weren't too happy with that, but I was very happy. So, Ben Hobbs as well got a 70. So if Coach still got him, he is fine to move off of as well. So, Tim, we'll move to the final game of the round.
I will just read this with a smile on my face. Freo defeated by Carlton by 44 points at Optus Stadium. That's about all I've got to mention about the game, actually. I don't think there was any injuries or anything along those lines, or haven't seen anything.
There was actually. So I'll just quickly say with the injuries and stuff. So Matt Kenny went off with a knee injury, so he got subbed out. Didn't look too good there. Mitch McGovern got a big corky there as well, and then Johnson was just subbed tactically there as well. So Matt Johnson only got 41 there. So any coaches that did jump off of him, it sort of just shows that rookies, even though they've got a 20 break even, you can jump off of them because they can put up bad scores. But if coach still got him, he's a good downgrade. You can sort of downgrade him to a rookie and get some cash. But to the other players this game, Luke Ryan, DC, 142. Just he continues to put up monster scores and really doesn't have that really bad flaw that we've seen in past years. Is he a guy that you're looking at on the run home as that defender pod that can go huge?
Yeah, I think he's a nice move. That game really suited them because they were awful, Freo. That looked like it could have been a 70, 80-point loss at one point at home against Carlton, who aren't exactly flying. But the ball was down there a lot, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. And he's obviously one of their go-to distributors. It's a little bit bittersweet for me because the week I brought in Wanganeen Millera, he was also in that price bracket that I could have grabbed, and I actually think he's been even better since I did that move. So, yeah, definitely one that coaches should look at because he's shown this year he is a top 6 defender.
And we'll talk about your captain next, Sean Darcy, 124. So, just good choice with the captain on the 124. There would no Carlton Rucks there, but is he an option for coaches to look at as a bit of a differential if they're looking to go a different path from Marshall English, or do you still think they're the two that you'd be trying to get?
Oh, I mean, obviously on everything we've seen this year, they're the two you want, but as I kind of insinuated earlier, there's not much point in me matching everyone else at this point, so I thought maybe going with Darcy and taking on English. It's worked out pretty well this week. It's got me an extra 30 or so points, but I'm sure it'll be flipped at some point for the rest of the season. But yeah, I think he's got a decent run of matchups coming up, which was my thinking. We've seen that he probably dominates some of the undersized rucks almost more than anyone else in the game. So, funnily enough, I'm actually kind of a little bit disappointed. I was really thinking with no Carlton ruck that he could have gone 130, 140, but he sort of got hands to a lot of marks and dropped a lot of marks and stuff like that. So it was a nearly game for him.
Yeah.
As because you own Sean Darcy and I've got Darcy Cameron, and obviously they're up against each other, I think, next week. What's your take on that? Is that even more of a reason to jump off Darcy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mentioned that on our pod this week as well. I think that matchup really worries me because I don't think he's going to get many hit-outs at all out of Sean Darcy. He's just so big, and Cameron's not the strongest hit-out ruck, so I would expect he'll probably do similar to what he did to English last week.
Yep, cheers. Decision made. Thanks.
So we got a few other players that score really well. So Sam Doherty, who I was very happy with, and anyone that jumped on him either this week or last week, back-to-back sort of 110 scores. Port Adelaide this week's a bit tough. Then he's got the Eagles after that, so and I think he's matchup proof anyway. I think he can still put up a good score this week anyway.
Just be careful. I want to be careful here. So just check the DFS Australia website because I remember looking at Doherty last week, and I think that wing role that he's playing, Port Adelaide are actually a really good matchup for that role. So now don't take my word for it. Hang on, I've got the DFS open right now. Let me have a quick look. DFS, hang on, Port Adelaide. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Hang on. Yeah, maybe I'm full of shit. There was something else. Maybe it's his matchup after that. No, hang on. Mate. Port Adelaide, wing defenders over the last 10 rounds, they're a plus 10-point average.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's not as
over the last,
bad.
5 rounds. So they're actually a really good matchup. So just look
Sweet,
into that.
good.
Consider it, before you make any decisions.
I think he'll still be an option for coaches to look at anyway, regardless of matchups, just because of that. But Tim, would you be going Sicily over him if you had the choice? Well, you've got the choice this week, actually.
I do have the choice. I tend to think I will be going Sick Dog just because of the break even. I've got to look at the run, but I think Hawthorn's run in particular for defenders is pretty good at the moment.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it'll be Sick Dog over Doc. Just also might give me a little bit of point of difference as well against coaches as well.
Yeah. DC, Sicily over Doc for you as well?
Sorry, guys, just trying to find the unmute button. That's a tough one. I think Sicily's form prior to his suspension was probably almost the best of any of the defenders outside of Dawson. So probably but Doc's still a top 6 defender, as we know.
Cara, which one are you out of the two there?
I own Doherty already, but I can see that you'd go Sick Dog for the matchup in the next few weeks. I just feel like with Doc, you can trust that he'll sit there till the end of the year, whereas Sick Dog, as you know, he can definitely be definitely sick. And if you have to trade him, you'll be so dirty at the end of this year.
Yeah. I've got Doc as well, and I'd be going Sicily over Doherty. I think he'll have a point to prove. I think 2 suspensions in the space of only a few weeks. He'll want to come back and I would imagine you'll probably want to try and stay clean and not have to get suspended. But hey, the Sick Dog, anything can happen. But I think he's a great take with a good run of matchups coming. Hayden Young, so a lot of angry non-owners out there that traded him out this week. So he put a 108 on their heads, and that's probably what they wanted at the start of the year. So, if anyone's still got Young, though, either a good send-off if you trade him or good that he put a good score up. So Sarong only got the 100 there, Brayshaw 97. We know that Carlton are a little bit more restrictive for inside mid. So the fact they still got essentially their hundreds is still fine. Sam Walsh, disappointing that, again, I don't know if he's going to get his forward status because I think he played a lot in the midfield today.
Confirmed that he hasn't. So
that he hasn't.
The DPP has been released. The only one that's really relevant is Jaden Short getting defender status, but he's obviously injured. So, Sam Walsh has missed out.
Yeah. So, unfortunate if anyone was hoping he's going to be getting DPP. But, again, only a 90. We just need to see something before jumping on him. Liam Henry got a 77. DC, did Jake jump on him this week?
I think he started like a house on fire as well. He had a couple of plus sixes in the first minute and then slowed pretty badly in the second half.
For those coaches that jumped on him, would it be just a trade out after just a 1 week play because he's got the toughest matchup for wingers in Collingwood this week? Or would you still be, if you've got maybe a rookie or another issue, you'd be happy to hold him?
Yeah, as Mini Monk likes to say, it's pretty team dependent, I would say. But if he's your worst player, you'd maybe think about taking that cash and running with it. Or if you can loop through him and say someone like Sheldrick, then that might be a decent option.
Yeah. Beautiful. And we've mentioned Johns before with the 41 and got subbed out, so you can trade him down and get some cash there. So, Tim, they're the games.
Did we talk Liam Henry? He got a 77, but just mindful to get off him.
Yeah, we were literally just talking about him for about 5 seconds.
Sorry. I was looking through the questions.
Get on it.
I know, I was looking through the questions. I wasn't paying attention.
You're like bloody Nathan, Tim, just off doing other shit.
Mate, I can only do one thing at a time. So that's what was happening. So on that, we're going to turn our attention to some questions before we, have a look at maybe what potential trades you guys might be making, even though it is so early in the week. But, Bales, if you have a look at YouTube, I'll run through Twitter.
Yeah.
So a question. Yeah. Oh, you got something, have you, mate?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that I'll just go this one from Connor here. So he said, so DC, I'll go this one to you. So he said he wants to go English to Cherry, which allows him to go Chester to Sicily, or would you be going Johnson and Sheldrick to Sicily and a rookie? I'm assuming it's pretty simple. You'd be going the second one.
Yeah, probably. Unless you think for some reason English is going to fall off the cliff for the rest of the year, but can't really see that happening. So
what are your thoughts of Cherry as like an option for coaches to have a look at? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, why not? If you don't have one of English and Marshall, maybe if you're still rolling with Briggs, I think you can make a pretty nice cash grab by doing that. It was someone I looked at this week as well instead of Darcy. Probably should have done that. Might have been a better points per dollar play, but I I don't think he's going to be close to the top guys for the rest of the year, but he'll make you some nice cash, and it allows you to do something else pretty tasty with your other move.
Yeah.
Cool. So I've got a note here also from Corey Blackledge, who let us know that Green got tagged by Connor Nash as well. So that's probably contributed to why he did so poorly. But then
Thanks,
Corey also asks, who should he trade, Hobbs or Darcy Cameron? I'll ask Cara.
It's tough. I'd been Hobbs a while ago, and jeebus, I don't know. I don't know if it would be Hobbs. I'd probably go Hobbs.
Yeah.
It depends how long you're going to hold either of the other ones for.
Yeah.
The Bombers have got Geelong at home next week, so it's a tough matchup.
Look, and I think also Darcy Cameron, impacted by a knock this week. It wasn't a really good matchup for him last week. I still think he's got the potential of scoring 100. But
if he can run Darcy, if he can run Sean Darcy around the ground, he might be able to get his disposals and that to get a solid score this week. So that's probably the hope. So I'd be going Hobbs out as well.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
I'll go this one from Mike Purdy. So he said, "Is Green a must go? Cara, is he a guy you're looking at trading?"
Well, cheers to old mate's hot tip that he got tagged by Nash. I think knowing that, I have a bit more confidence running with him next week, although they're up against, I think, Adelaide. I'm going to get rid of Darcy Cameron over Green, and Day's another one I got that I'm going to hold.
Yeah. And DC, I'll go this one for you. So John's asked this one here. So this is actually a good question that a lot of coaches should be looking at. So John says, does he go Steele or Mills? You saving the cash for Mills or going Steele?
What's the price difference? I haven't actually looked at the prices yet.
So Mills will be priced around about that sort of just under 650, and Jack Steele will be probably edging that sort of near 800, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, he's 802 and Mills is 646. Oh, that's hard. I think I'd probably still go Mills. That's a lot of cash. If it allows you to do something else with your other move that you want to do, then I'd do that. If you're just taking, say, 2 rookies up to one of them and you can get up to Steele, then I'd probably get up to Steele.
Yep. Tim, you got any question there, mate?
Yeah, I've got some kind of different thoughts on that one, though. So, and not saying I'm right. I'm sure DC kind of agrees. A lot of these things we don't know, right? We just give our best advice. But, I'm still concerned with Mills. We saw him towards the end of that game, go back, which is what he was doing earlier on in the year. So I'm just not sure that we've seen anything from Mills that tells us he can go 120 plus. And I know there's that cash difference. And of course, if that's where you can get to, and it's going to get your rookie off field, then that's what you can get to. But if you've got a choice between Jack Steele and Callum Mills, I'd just be really mindful of giving those spots away to players that might not score 100 plus. Because that could make a really big difference. And I think, Jack Steele scored a 150 this week, right? Whereas Callum Mills, we haven't seen him, go over 100 for a while.
Yep. That's definitely something to look at. And Tim, I got one more question here for you. So Jack asks, a day to Sicily if it means holding Darcy Cameron.
Yeah. Oh.
I like Dave's run up against North Melbourne. Is it North Melbourne this week?
Yeah.
Surely he has to get a bit of that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm not thinking about is the matchup. I'd like the idea of holding Darcy, Cameron, just because of his role. But with those matchups against Darcy versus Darcy this week and then Hawthorn versus North Melbourne, I actually think you might want to do the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe take a haircut on the rookie or maybe get rid of a rookie that's maybe a little bit more expensive and try and get Darcy Cameron up to Sicily if you can make that work with DPP, maybe.
Going back on that Callum Mills talk, my only other issue is what's Lloyd's injury? Because it was when Lloyd went down that he went back. So
good point.
How long is Lloyd going to be out for? I would go Steele for the points every day.
I think it could be concussion.
It was a head knock, I think.
Yeah.
It was. So he's going to be out, you'd think, next week. So I wouldn't go to Mills. That's me.
Tim, any other questions there, mate?
No, mate. I think that's pretty much it. So why don't we just turn to, obviously it's early in the week, right? So we know you guys probably don't quite know. Cara, obviously you're also pretty high up, so you might not want to give away too much. But why don't you just give us a bit of an idea? DC, we'll start with you. What you're looking at doing this week?
Does that mean I'm also not quite high up, Tim?
Sorry, mate.
Yeah.
Sorry,
jeez. Dagger through the heart. That is rough.
I'm sure you can.
You will not be required next week. No.
You can put your hat on after the podcast and feel better about it, mate.
I do that every week.
I'm still chasing.
I have no idea what I'm doing. As in who I'm bringing in. I'll be trying to get Johnson off field. That'll be my main move, and then probably Cameron's the other one that needs to go.
And so you don't have any idea what sort of cash you'll have or what sort of players you'll be looking at or anything like that?
No, not really. Mills will be an option. LDU will be an option, and then I might be able to get creative. I'll just have to have a look.
Yeah, cool. Cara, what about you?
So
you said
all year,
you know what you're doing, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty much someone that goes with my rage trade. So how I'm feeling at this time of the night is usually how I roll into the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Straight away, I'm Darcy Cameron to Cogs. That's my move. Yeah. I'm dirty because I had 300k in my bank last week and spent up to get Petrarca, who's now going to be a fucking F1 by the looks of it. So, I want Cogs. Yeah. A lot of people have him up the top and I'm missing out.
Yeah, and he had a good week this week, obviously. So,
yeah.
Good stuff. Bales, what about you, mate?
Yeah, so again, similar. I think my trades are pretty much locked in. It'll be a Dev Rob if I can go down to a Banks or a Cooper Harvey. If I can't do it with Dev Rob, it'll be Windhager down, and I'll be going Lockie Ash, which unfortunately hasn't quite been the pick that I was hoping for, and he'll be going to Sicily. So they're pretty much done. Sicily is coming in for me no matter what this week. So I'm sorted. Tim, what about you, mate? Any thoughts on yours?
Yeah, mate. Well, Lockout has lifted while we've been doing this. So I've done a couple of little clicks here and there, and I can see that Sheldrick down to Cooper Harvey will give me exactly the money I need to do Marcus Windhager up to James Sicily, leaving me exactly $0 in the bank. So I'll take my last. Take my last rookie off field. Wanganeen Malera will come into the midfield, and Sick Dog will go nicely into D3 there. So that'll be, I'm pretty sure, there should be much movement from that this week, I wouldn't think.
Sweet.
Awesome. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us. We'll start with you, DC, mate. Thanks a lot for being on. Obviously, you guys do great work over there at HatChat. So, make sure everyone goes and follows the podcast, and also them on Twitter at HatChat AFL. DC, where can people find you, mate?
Thanks for having me on again, boys. Good fun, and Cara as well. Nice to chat.
Thanks,
you can find me. You can find me at DC Caterpillars.
Yeah, wicked. And Cara, all the best in the for the run for the rest of the year. I mean, sitting in 11th, you got a great shot there at possibly taking home a Hilux. Maybe that'll that being in the garage will keep Ranger Mike happy.
Exactly. That would be the dream.
Yeah, but a couple of shout outs for you. So firstly, just for everyone that is in the Perth area, I highly recommend that you follow Cara, which is at AFL Fantasy Perth. Like I said, she's kind of like the founder of the Varsity Nights, and they're not necessarily there. They're awesome nights. I mean, not necessarily, you guys can't necessarily get there every Friday night, but you're still down every few weeks and joining the rest of us crew there. So thanks a lot for that, and everyone give her a follow there, and good luck for the rest of the year.
Yeah, thank you. It's been good. The AFL Fantasy Perth came out last year when I just wanted to hang out with other like-minded losers that love fantasy. And I just thought it would be a cool thing to watch footy and have a beer. And this is the second year and it's really picked up. And it's just great to see often guys on their own rock up, not knowing anyone. But thanks to fantasy, you've got something in common straight away. And I think everyone fits in really well. So I hope to see you at the event this Friday night. I'll be there, so look out for me.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks for putting it together. All right.
Cheers.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone, and in particular, thanks to those who sent through questions. Make sure you can send through your questions to us throughout the week at Twitter, and give us a follow at AFL Fantasy Fans. Don't forget to tune in each week, not only after the final siren of the round for the live Twitter space, but also at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 4 p.m. Western Standard Time for our pre-lockout chat every Friday. And remember, you can listen to these spaces on AFL Fantasy Fanatics podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe. We'd love it if you guys head across and just gave us a review. that would be much appreciated. And, of course, best of luck with your research and trades this week, and we'll catch you again the same time next week. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.
See ya.
Cheers, guys. See ya.
See ya.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
for jumping on.
No
How
worries.
was that,
Pleasure,
Cara?
guys.
First space?
Oh,
How'd you
no,
feel?
she's gone. She's gone.
Oh, she's gone. She's fucking gone already. Out the door.
Rookie
Drinking her
mistake.
bourbon. Yeah, drinking her bourbon. No, it's great. Awesome. Thanks for jumping on, DC.
No worries, guys. Good chat.
All the best.
Beautiful.
Weekend,
And then
mate.
for those people that are on YouTube, unfortunately, I won't be answering questions tonight. But hey, maybe Tim can tee something up. We could do a Q&A on a separate night. So, but beautiful. All right, thanks guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the Fridays. Tim said, and then beautiful. Have a good week.
See ya.